And now we put the finishing touches on our beautiful IPv6 cake. Mwah! By the time we're done here, we will deploy our newly designed IPv6 based network. I don't know why I'm so tickled to do this this thing. Tickled is probably the right word. So let's get back into the network. Now, I've got to say, I in the last video, I said I would save the chicken scratch, and I did, but I pulled it up, and I'm like, that's embarrassing. I can't bring that up as a network diagram. So I took the time, and I translated that into a little bit cleaner version. So let me look at what we have here. First off, you see Arizona. There's our VLANs, and again, you can... just as a refresher, we've got this allocated by the ISP. We expanded that. This is our little subnet that we deployed for each one of the sites, extending our subnet bits over to a /64, which allows us 64 bits for the individual hosts on those networks to generate their own addresses. Now, a couple quick things of note. First and foremost, we are going to do the configuration right now, but I'm not going to do Arizona. And the reason why is because I've been giving like little pieces of VLANs up till this point, but I don't want to do a full-on deployment of VLANs because it would just be like, we'd all melt down, right? So what I want to do is I want to deploy Nevada and Florida because they're not using VLANs yet. They're small offices, just so you can see the application of those addresses. And the other thing I want to make sure I mention is on these routers, I'm going to leave the link local address for their communication. And the reason for that is there's no reason the Metro E interface of these routers would need to communicate outside of its own network. You might consider, and this is a big might. So let me just say, leave it at link local, okay? But I will say there is another type of address out there, and I rarely mention it, but I'm going to bring it up right now. Unique local. The reason I rarely mention it is this was actually originally called site local, and it's a topic of I'm not going to say as much debate as it used to be. So unique local addresses are private addresses in the IPv6 space. And therein lies the reason that there is such a debate about them. Is people are like, why do we need private addresses? We've got the, and people are like, oh, you want, and so the unique local prefix is actually FC00, and I'll just put : /7, meaning the first 7 bits are locked to where they will give you FC, and pretty much everything after that is up to you. So if you wanted to use some private addressing, if you will, for this network, but it's not needed. So that's why I just don't clutter people's minds with this site local, unique local, but it's worth an honorable mention, okay? So we're going to just leave these guys with link local addresses, but still have IPv6 enabled on that Metro E cloud so that we can have a working network configuration. So without further ado, let's jump on over to the Nevada router and get it set up. Move my console cable from Arizona over to Nevada. We're not using SSH yet because we haven't set up the full routing, though we got a little epic Jurassic Park action going on there. All right, console connection is in place. I'm going to get logged in and to privilege mode. Now, we're used to typing commands like show IP interface brief, which would give us the IPv4 configuration, which we can see that this Nevada router is set up for its typical IPv4 subnet and the Metro E subnet that's connected to Fast Ethernet 0/0. And you'll find most commands that you type in are going to be the same thing, just with v6 in front of it. And as I look, I'm like, okay, I've got nothing. It shows the interfaces are up, but there's no configuration on them whatsoever. So let's jump back here, and I see that my VLAN 1 is supposed to be this 2001 DB8, blah, blah, blah. Let's do that. Here, actually, I'll just shrink down the window so we can see the address at the same time. We're on our Nevada router. I'm going to go into global configuration mode. And one of the things that I'm going to mention, you won't see much of this until we get into the IPv6 routing side of things, where we're actually routing between the different sites. There's a command that you want to type in that turns on IPv6 routing. If you don't do this, it won't route. It'll take the address, it'll take the commands, but it won't actually pass traffic through. It is from global configuration mode, IPv6 unicast routing. That's it. One command is just kind of like a power switch. There we go. We're now routing traffic for IPv6. Okay, so let's get into interface fast Ethernet 0/1. This is the one connecting to the internal LAN right here. And let's assign the address up there. I'm going to do the IPv6 address. Hit the question mark, and you can see it's asking me what syntax do you want. And so we'll go type that in. 2001:DB8. Yes, it has the leading 0, but we can drop that. And we can even type it in with that shortcut. I'll do 6783:0801. Actually, we can even drop that. 801::, and I'm going to give this the 1//64. Now, why is that? Well, because this is the default gateway. It's going to have the essentially .1 address. So all these computers right here, as they get IPv6 address, they will see that as the default gateway. You don't have to do that. You can make it all kinds of things. But usually, the default gateway is going to be the first address in there. You don't want to use the auto-generated address because it's going to be this big, mushy, long thing, and you don't want to have to type that in when you statically configure things. So we'll use .1 as that address. So let's bail out here and do a show IPv6 interface and just hit the enter key. Notice right there, fast Ethernet 0/1 is up, line protocol is up. I see it's automatically generated the link local address. If you were to do a show interface fast Ethernet 0/1, you would see the built-in address or the MAC address. That's it right there. Shoop, ACE1. That's kind of fun. And if you look up here, oh, where'd it go? Right there. Notice that we've got our rules in place. FE80:211. So we can see that it went ahead and flipped that 7th bit. You see the 2 right there, right? It dropped the leading 0. Then we've got the MAC address itself, 1192FFFE. It extended it, squished that right in the middle. 17 ACE1. So you can see that's the same as that MAC address, just extended and automatically generated. Right below it is the global unicast address that I typed in, 2001:DB8 6783:801::1. All the multicast addresses I don't have to worry about. It automatically joins the ones that it needs by default. You'll find out more about those as you dive deeper into the different protocols that use IPv6 multicast. So the last thing I want to do on this router is enable the interface on fast Ethernet 0. Hang on, let's do show IPv6 interface brief, just so we can verify it's now showing up. Notice this is a great concise way to see the link local address and the global address that we typed in there. I just want to turn it on fast Ethernet 0/0. Remember, the Metro E, I was saying I don't really want to set up global addressing for this. I just wanted to allow these routers to use their link local addresses, whatever it's going to automatically generate, to configure those and communicate with routing protocols once we've got those set up. So I'm going to go back into global configuration mode, into fast Ethernet 0/0. I'll type in IPv6 address, and instead of actually typing in an address, I'm just going to say, go ahead and do your auto config thing. Drop back out, show in IPv6 interface, and I'll just hit the enter key. And notice it now says fast Ethernet 0/0 is up, line protocol is up, link local address, bam, automatically generated. Join the multicast groups, but no global unicast address is configured. And for us on that Metro E link, totally good enough, right? So now I can see both interfaces, and I can even do that show IPv6 interface brief. Great concise way to see both interfaces are enabled and communicating. Let's drop down to Florida. Man, all my palm trees got blown over. It's not uncommon for Florida. Grab the console cable and shuffle it right over here. All right, looking at that VLAN 1, we've got that same prefix. Then, instead of being 0801, it's 1601::, and we'll use .1 as the address here as well. There we go. I got my Florida console available. Get logged in, privilege mode. I'll do that show IP interface brief just to verify we've got our IP addressing from the IPv4 subnets. I'll do the show IPv6 interface brief just to verify we've got nothing. I'll go into global configuration mode, interface fast Ethernet 0/1, which is the one connecting to the Florida LAN. And I'll do that overlay network, IPv6 address. I'm just looking at the prefix right at the top up there, 2001:DB8:6783. Then we used the site code, which was 16, and the VLAN identifier 01 as that subnet, ::1. /64. Sweet. Go under interface fast Ethernet 0/0, IPv6 address, auto config, hit enter, and now I can come back to privilege mode and do show IPv6 interface brief, and we are golden. We have auto-generated or EUI64 addresses on each one of those interfaces. That'll be based on the MAC address on the interface. Right below that is the global address that we assign to that individual interface, 1601::1. That should be exactly what we need. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to save Arizona for later once we get into the VLAN configuration and get all the router on a stick set up with all of the different VLAN tagged interfaces all the way down. It'll be fun. So, at this point, we have deployed at least a large portion of our newly designed IPv6 based network. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.